We are deep in the heart of Texas, just a little southeast of Austin, on ground that was once to be called Speed City. We know it now as Circuit of the Americas, and home for more than a decade to the United States Grand Prix. Hey everybody, I'm Greg Woods. Here is the iconic circuit that brought Grand Prix racing back to the United States. Here is our Drivers' Championship through these Predictor videos, and it's a close one developing between Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. Piastri's McLaren team also in the lead in the Constructors' Championship, but Ferrari up there with Leclerc, Esteban Ocon in fourth with Haas, Alonso in fifth with Aston Martin before the other McLaren of Lando Norris. We get things started with Pierre Gasly sweeping through the S's and descending down this track as a tricky corner right there and right there, heading down to the hairpin. Look at how dusty it appears. Dry in this part of the world during the Grand Prix time. Underneath the tower, excellent view from way up there. Around the final turn, affectionately called Andretti, and a 27.25 is the opening time. Franco Colapinto goes over half a second clear in the first sector over his teammate. Weaving through that part of the track, certain section designed to mimic the stadium section at Hockenheim, and then you also get the multi-apex turn from Istanbul. Colapinto goes a little quicker, and Alex Albon out on the track now, bounding off of that turn where a lot of marbles are going to go wide, whack into that wall. Actual circuit, there is not a wall there, at least not unless you go across some grass. Albon splits the two Alpines, Carlos Sainz. Around that final turn, 27.12. In this Formula One version, the massive climb up the hill is in the form of the conveyor belt, and it actually comes before the starting line. As the two Williams in between the two Alpines, and Liam Lawson goes slowest of all, 27.27. Isaac Adjar in the RB with Nico Hülkenberg being released into Big Red. That is the somewhat official name of turn number one, sitting atop Phil Hill. Isaac Adjar, 26.54, that is fastest of anybody by 4/10. Here in Q1, all marbles will be released. They'll do one lap, and at the end, the bottom five are eliminated. They'll slot into those grid positions. We'll go on to Q2 and do the same thing over again with the bottom five there being knocked out, leaving us 10 for a shootout for pole. Nico Hülkenberg sitting atop the scoring pylon right now. Gabriel Bortoleto lost over a second in the middle sector. So many differences in the technical portions of this track. You get the speed burst through here, heading down to the hairpin and coming out of it. You have to arrest that speed before starting in, angling toward that tower. Through the stadium section and that multi-apex turn. Behrman, 26.64. A lot of sideways motion from Esteban Ocon, who sits fourth in the championship right now. And Behrman recovers decently in the final few turns to go up to third. Esteban Ocon about a second off of the pace and lost another second in the third sector alone. Ocon down in 10th. That starts to make things a little nerve-wracking for Haas. The hopes for advancement out of Q1 resting solely on the shoulders of Behrman, I would imagine, once we get a little deeper into this one. Half of the field has already gone. Lance Stroll, who jumped up to 9th in the standings after the last race, and a very good finish in these Marble Predictor videos. And Stroll, second here. Fernando Alonso. Down through the final two turns, over the line, and 6th. Alonso never won here in the U.S., at least at Circuit of the Americas, or its previous iteration of the U.S. Grand Prix, back at Indianapolis. Russell up into 5th. Kimi Antonelli, fastest of everybody in that middle sector. Watch Esteban Ocon, by the way, continues to drop down the order. Antonelli in 3rd. Ocon one spot away from being on the bubble. Here comes Max Verstappen. 3 times won this race from 21 through 23, and Verstappen goes fastest of everyone. Max, one of 3 three-time winners here, sharing that distinction with Graham Hill and Jim Clark, who dominated the 60s between them. Yuki Tsunoda only good enough for 11th. Ocon has been eliminated. Bortoleto sitting in 15th now, watching Charles Leclerc. 7th. Leclerc, winner last year down in Austin. Lewis Hamilton won this race 4 years in a row. Also won it in the very first year that they came to Austin. Oh, and by the way, won it the last year at Indianapolis. Lewis, the winningest driver in U.S. Grand Prix history, does outqualify Leclerc in this round at least, but only good enough for 8th. Norris goes up to 4th and knocks out Gasly. Lawson had been booted by Hamilton. Here comes Piastri, our final runner. Albon on the bubble. Piastri good enough for 6th. Albon is out. Tsunoda just makes it. Look at how close it was between Albon and Gasly and Lawson. Hundredths of a second between them. Ready to start Q2, and it is Yuki Tsunoda who drops in first. That sweep from that first turn down here through this undulating end of the first sector, beginning of the second. It can really knock you out of sorts. Tsunoda, tight line through the hairpin. Pipped the inside apex and might have lost a bit of time there. Carlos Sainz also deployed up top. Tsunoda 27.24 is the opening time here, and that's going to be a little tricky. Compare that to our times in Q1. We'll see if the track has gotten any faster here in Q2. The sun baking the circuit, especially the later you get in the day, that could create some issues. That hasn't stopped the fans from coming out. Look at that Texas flag. There was a Haas grandstand. You even see marbles sitting underneath in the amphitheater below the tower, or at least the red portion I call the mullet. Maybe catching some shade under there. Fernando Alonso leads. Sainz and Tsunoda, Colapinto last of the 4 who have run thus far. George Russell for Mercedes. 6 times they've won the U.S. Grand Prix as a constructor, 9 times as an engine supplier. Russell, 3rd. Charles Leclerc in the first of the Ferraris. Got the better of Hamilton last year at this race. Half a second down in 3rd. Lewis Hamilton put things together a bit tidier in the middle. Lost half a second in the first. Swings over the line there, up into 2nd, 26.45. Low 26s, you gotta be feeling good. The later on you get in this qualifying. Ollie Behrman. Nice couple of split times so far over the painted stars and stripes, and up to 2nd. Colapinto down there in 8th. Once you get past 10, we will start to see eliminations. Isaac Adjar also pretty good on the first 2 splits. Lost a bit more in the 3rd, down to 6th. Oscar Piastri. It's a bit of a shock. Bumping into that wall, moved that marble back to the center of the track. How much of a time loss was it? It wasn't terrible. Oscar Piastri, 4th. Colapinto now on the bubble. Kimi Antonelli. Dead heat almost. And Antonelli takes over the top spot. Will be safe. Alonso will also be safe as we just get down to the final 4 marbles. So anybody up there 6th above, they are safe. Norris will go to safety as well. Tsunoda is out. George Russell sitting on the inside, hoping not to get bumped to the outside. Stroll, final turn, goes first of everybody into the upper 25s. At a new P1, 25.88. Russell is out. Ajar is watching Nico Hulkenberg, who is 3/10 up through the first. Lost it all in the middle and lost a whale of time in the third. Hulkenberg straight to elimination. Now Max Verstappen knows the time that he needs to make it to Q3. Doesn't have to be fastest of all, but would love to do it. That's just who Max Verstappen is. He's purple through the middle sector. That's fastest of anybody so far. Can he keep it? He does not, but it's good enough. Might have lifted off through those final two turns and coasted over the line. Ajar, Russell, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, and Colapinto eliminated in Q2. That just leaves us Q3. Leclerc first out into the hairpin that starts this lap. Two sharp hairpins on this circuit. That first one really drops away from you afterward. This is the other one, taken very differently. One is a high-speed entry, the other one not quite as fast because you're just coming off of the conveyor belt. Leclerc getting into the rhythm now, but going first out in qualifying, gonna be difficult. 25.87. That is a good time to lay down to start Q3. Carlos Sainz. Haven't heard if he heard what that time was, but goes 26.53, quite a difference. Everybody's still waiting in the block, so Piastri beyond. They got to see that time be put up on the pylon. Let's see if they can match it, and so far the answer is a resounding no for Piastri, over a second and a half back of Leclerc. Norris also lost half a second in the first sector, clawed some back in the second. Third, out-qualifies Piastri. That is key in the championship battle. Norris down there in sixth. Piastri leading it over Verstappen. Hamilton now goes P1, beats his teammate, and we've seen this before. Ollie Behrman, very respectable in the middle. What kind of a third sector can the Haas put together? Behrman fifth. Alonso was quicker in the first sector. Looking really good here, bumps the inside wall. Second, 9/100ths off. Hamilton holds on, 3 marbles left. Verstappen only 6/100ths off through the first few turns. Now a quarter of a second down. Verstappen around the final turn, only good enough for fourth. Antonelli in the first of the Mercedes, not a factor through sector 1. Doing better in the second. Stroll also going quick, higher up the course. Antonelli fourth, displaces Verstappen down another. Piastri in ninth. Final marble to go is Lance Stroll, and lost nearly 6/10 in the middle. It would take a mammoth effort through the final two turns. Lewis Hamilton will start on pole for the United States Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton had 104 pole positions coming into this season, 4 of which were at the U.S. Grand Prix, including one at IMS. But he's just added another one, and it's his first at Ferrari. We'll have to see if that turns into race pace for what promises to be a hot Grand Prix tomorrow, but these drivers are used to a little bit of heat.